All right. Welcome back to Blue by 90. I'm Justin, joined by Kaylin and a special guest today. We've got my good friend, Jake Butt. Jay Booty. How we doing today?
Hey man, I'm doing good. I gotta let the people know if you haven't look. I know you guys host those tailgates every week, and I don't get to go to Ann Arbor every week. But
Yeah.
when I was in Ann Arbor for the Rutgers game this year, I'm pulling up. I'm meeting Justin, and there I'm seeing a rocking tailgate. People are chugging beers. It looked like a great time, man. I wish I could have joined you, but I'm happy to hang out with you here.
We should at least shotgunned one before you went into the booth or something. That could have, you could have had some interesting things to say up there.
That's right. Next time, maybe. Yeah, next time. I was with all my colleagues, so yeah, maybe yeah, we'll find the time. We'll find the time.
We'll find the time for sure. But appreciate you coming on, man. I've been behind the scenes with your pods in the Valiant studio, in the lab with Jake Butt all year with the Michigan student athletes. So appreciate you coming on with us. But yeah, I mean we're halfway through the Big Ten season, the college football season, which sucks. Like I feel like I love summer, obviously, but then you get to you're like rushing to get to that first weekend of football, and then like that, half the season's gone.
Oh, man, I know, dude. It's so like busy. Like I'm looking at, I'm like, I cannot believe where we are in the season, man. You blink, we're gonna blink again, and we're talking about the conference championships and playoffs. It just rolls. Hey, time flies when you're having fun, man. That's how we know we're football fans. You're right. I wish it doesn't move so fast, but we can't help it, man. We love it that much.
It literally goes so fast. Like I've already lost track of how many great games I've watched. And then just next week, there's another slate of great games, which, yeah, you're right. That's just why I love being a fan.
Oregon, Washington, probably game of the year, right?
Yeah, for sure. Has to be.
Are we going to see another one this weekend? Ohio State.
Maybe. Ohio State, Penn State. Do you think that – let's go right into it. Do you think that that's a good matchup? Because I feel like that is – it's a little bit different this year. I don't think that most people on the national landscape think that Penn State or Ohio State are like true national title contenders. Is that fair to say?
No, man, no. I think I think this isn't national championship game, to be completely honest with you. I think this is a national title game in the middle of the season. Now, look, like, part of the reason Georgia isn't Georgia that we've seen. Like,
right.
I think it's fascinating to just take a second and examine where we are and like think about where we were when NIL and transfer portal came about, and everyone said, "This is the end of college football. It's over. I'll never watch again." And then here we are, dude. This is the best it's been, man. There's so much parity.
Oh,
so that's why, like, even though Ohio State's offense isn't what we've seen, though the numbers are actually pretty damn good. And it seems like Penn State's ready to take that leap. Like, this is still a national title game. I expect a low-scoring game, to be completely honest with you. These are two of the best defenses of the country. Like, I can see a 17-14 game, and maybe that's not attractive, but, like, 17-14 with other teams playing is different than this.
We're Big Ten fans. What do you mean that's not attractive?
We're
That is the
sickos.
best thing ever.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking pre-show about some other teams, man. Yeah, we're sickos. I think this could be like a fun 17-14 game where, like, the offenses are moving and making plays, and the defense gets critical stops. Like, I do think it'll be tough to beat Oregon, Washington, but I have a high degree of confidence it's going to be a damn good game, man.
Yeah, definitely with two young quarterbacks as well, right? I think it's going to kind of come down to like who makes a mistake, right?
Yeah.
That's what's going to make it so fun.
What do we know, too? I mean, like, so I think McCord has one interception on the year. Like, that's the stat. Aller doesn't have any. But here's the thing, though. So Penn State has one offensive turnover on the year. Like, their turnover margin is about as good as it gets. Two of their turnovers came on special teams, and one of them came last week against UMass in really bad conditions, caught a slant, fumbled. It was Trey Wallace, their receiver. Whereas, so Kyle McCord has the one interception, but I know we watched Ohio State Notre Dame, right? Remember that rat safety coming backside?
I mean, there was like 3 or 4 times where it was everything could have been picked off, it felt like, in that game.
it could have, and here's the thing I know about, because I've called like Penn State. The last 2 games I've called have been Penn State. So Manny Diaz, as you guys know, like he'll have like like 7 or 8 guys like right on the line of scrimmage. Like it looks like they're all coming, and sometimes they come, but sometimes they drop out. And if they all come, like typically what you want to do is hit routes like balls like over the middle of the field, slants, and have your quarterback throw into the space. Well, what I think one play that could decide this game, and I'm going to go out on a limb here. Manny Diaz is going to have 8 on the line of scrimmage, and one time he's going to drop a guy out, and that guy's going to drop underneath a slant. Does Kyle McCord see it, and is he disciplined enough to just take the sack, or does he not see it and still throw it? Then does Penn State intercept it or not? Because, yeah, Kalen, like whoever makes the most mistakes, that could easily be the deciding factor in this game.
Totally. I agree. I think, this is, I do not see it as some shootout game at all, like we've seen Ohio State do in the past. So I definitely think that it could be that way. I also just think, like you said, you talked about the 2 young quarterbacks. Who shits their pants and who doesn't? Honestly, it kind of comes down to that. McCord has played in a really big game. Aller hasn't played in a big game really yet,
Yeah.
So I do think that's a big deal. And let's be honest, James Franklin in big games has not performed very well. I saw some stats about him, on the road versus top 10 teams, all that stuff. Like it's what Jim Harbaugh was pre-2020. Those were the Jim Harbaugh stats. Yeah. Well, we're sitting here in 2023. That's still James Franklin. So no matter how good his team is, I still think, in the back of my mind, I've got that going on as well.
Hey, but guess what? I think you're right. But like, guess what, man? 2 things are true. One, that doesn't mean James Franklin is a bad coach or that Penn State's a bad team. They said that about Coach Harbaugh, and look where they are. Like you kind of gotta prove it to yourself that you're capable of it. So like, hey, I really believe Penn State has a loaded roster. I think this year can do it. So as far as the quarterback shitting their pants, hey, you don't just shit your pants. You know what else? What affects shitting your pants? A good diet. And basically what I'm saying is the guys around the quarterbacks are going to play a factor here. Who can run the ball? Ohio State struggled to run the football. Man, they really have. Penn State's been able to, but it hasn't been sexy. It's more been like a quantity over quality thing. They don't have a lot of explosives. Like I think for both these young quarterbacks, the best plan you can have is guys around them to step up. But these defenses are loaded, man, and they present a lot of challenges to whoever offense. I mean, as far as the quarterbacks go, I think the best thing you could do, get them in third and manageable, or avoid third down at all. And I got some big time numbers. If you guys are interested, I got some numbers that I'm interested in that I think could decide this game. I'm not a big stat guy, but I do have numbers that could decide this game. But I do think it's the guys around them that will play a big factor to help those dudes.
Yeah, I like it. By the way, this was timely because on 2 podcasts ago, we talked a lot about actually shitting our pants. We basically said there are 2 types of people out there. One, that you admit that you shit your pants as an adult, and 2, the second one are liars. That's pretty much where we're at.
We've all shit our pants, man. Listen, we were all, at some point in our life, every man or woman and everything in between has shit their pants at some point in their life. When you're a young child, at a minimum, you had to have done it.
There you go. Well, I'm sure we'll get a lot of stats from you on the Big Ten Network this week as well.
Go for
it. As we're talking about young quarterbacks, and I guess not really young, but as we're talking about Big Ten quarterbacks, I want to shift to JJ. Obviously we talk about him a lot here. You're a Michigan grad. I'm sure you've watched Michigan, even though you're a Big Ten Network analysis. You're still watching him more than others, I would assume. Is it fair to say that he not only is the best Big Ten quarterback, but possibly the best quarterback in the country right now?
I'm not ready to say he's the best quarterback in the country, to be honest with you. But I am ready to have that conversation, and I think that's a step in the right direction. You couldn't – if you said, hey, Michigan's got the best quarterback in the country outside, any time over the past 2 decades, people would have been like, man, I never want to hear a football opinion of you ever again. And that has nothing, the team would still win. So let's say that. But I do think it's time to have that conversation. I think this is why I don't want to get too deep into the numbers. Stats in college football, they are deceiving. Michigan, hey, how many yards does JJ have? Well, what's the context? They're blowing everyone out, and he's pulled in the third quarter, and they're running the ball 25, 30 times a game, right? So stats in a bubble, they affect that. But then you look at the film and you say, man, he has ripped some big time throws. And what I really think is, and it's the JJ conversation is like part of a greater conversation where I look at this Michigan team as a team that is playing like they have something to prove. I go back to that TCU game last year and they lost it. And, what'd they tell us after the game, man? Hey, this will never happen again. Like we will be better because of that. Every team that loses says that. Right. Every team. Now it's a thing. You stand out there and you look at the confetti and then you go freaking, go on vacation for 4 months. That's not Michigan. I know that's not Michigan. This team is playing like they went back to work that following Monday, man.
Right.
In a big leap forward, that's shown by the way JJ's playing. And I also think it's something to be said about Sharon Moore in the year 2 of being a coordinator. Hey, we talk about the sophomore leap, right? Like, hey, that applies for coordinators. Last year and the year before in 2021, Coach Harbaugh and Sharon Moore, and it was Josh Gaddis in 2021, they knew they could run the ball 40 times a game and sleepwalk to 10 wins. And I really believe Michigan would be undefeated if JJ hadn't thrown a single pass this whole year. I think they could run the ball and be undefeated.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Seriously, I really believe that to be true. They're that talented of a roster, but I think they're looking at this and saying like, hey, if we want to win a national title, we have to work on our full spectrum. And they're letting JJ throw it. And what a product of that is Roman Wilson's having one of the best seasons of a Michigan receiver in recent history. Colson Loveland has taken that leap. Cornelius Johnson is still that wily, dependable veteran. AJ Barner stepped up. Even the running backs has stepped up in the passing game. Hey, Samaj Morgan making some big time plays. So you when you win games and your quarterback's 9 for 13, like, hey, great, you win games. But what did you really find out? We're letting JJ throw it 20, 25 times a game. We're learning a lot about him.
Yeah. One thing I definitely love about college football in general is like, it's like a battle of philosophies almost, right? Like anybody from the West Coast, if you just showed them like JJ's numbers, they'd be like, what do you mean he didn't throw the ball 40 times a game? Like he can't even be in the conversation, right? They're used to these Pac-12 quarterbacks who are just going nuts. But then
horrendous defenses too, because you're in shootouts all day. Like you're in shootouts, so you have the opportunity to have big numbers.
So it's like when you get a guy like JJ who plays for Michigan, who's just so efficient and like that's the kind of the whole point, right? They don't need to do that. He does everything like right. And that's what makes him such a great player. So it's like this battle of philosophies, which I just love to see.
Now I'm going to push back on you because I don't think JJ does everything right.
Yeah, some hyperbole there.
I really want, like, listen, man, like, what's the one singular thing that could ruin the season is JJ getting injured. And like I look back to that Indiana game last week and I'm like, man, you at some point you have to like, and it's hard to say because the dude's a damn competitor, so it's a good thing, right? You'd rather pull a guy back, but like at some point I would challenge JJ. The next step is to say, hey, Tom Brady, man, JJ's not Tom Brady. Let me make this very clear. But at some point,
that's going to be the clip. That's going to be the clip that like Sparty and Ohio State fans take, right?
Yeah. Hey, man, no press is bad press. But literally, man, when you have a guy that you know is that good of a quarterback, when the game's in the bag, don't lower your shoulder to move the chains. We need you. You know the game. Yeah. Hey, man, when it's in the third quarter, slide, throw it away, kick the field goal. Doesn't matter. That's the next step, man. Like that is the challenge for him because he's so special and he knows it, that he wants to prove that. You don't need to prove anything anymore, JJ, man. Anyone that watches the game knows you're special. If you throw it away, it doesn't affect that at all, man. In fact, maybe it adds to you being special. That would be the challenge.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we were sitting there in the stands and I was not far away from the field And even I, like, obviously it's different. I don't have the ball. I'm not the one that's running the ball, but it felt like everyone around us, and myself included, you're sitting there like, just go down, dude. We're up 35-7. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, even, if I know to do that, then you should probably know to do that. And again, much easier said than done, obviously, but
you're holding your breath.
Totally.
You're holding your breath.
You're sitting there and you're like you said, like, our whole season, I love Jack Tuttle. He's a great kid, and
Sure.
I think he's really, really good. He's way better than just some Joe Schmo backup quarterback, but he's not JJ McCarthy, and I think he would come on this podcast and tell us that. You know, like, and so I think that, somebody, and I think Jim is out here saying it to him behind closed doors, like, hey, dude, take a sack, take the slide, do it all. But
here's the thing, man. So I look at Penn State, Ohio State, and like Penn State, to just use this as a benchmark, like the biggest knock on Penn State is their lack of explosives on offense. And before the game last week, Iowa had more offensive explosives than Penn State. And you say, man, that's bad. But I say this to apply it back to Michigan. James Franklin's looking at Drew Aller and says, hey, man, we don't need you to be special right now, man. Look at the way the defense is playing.
Right.
Throw it away. Take it. They don't really take sacks either. Just, hey, it's all good, man. This is a team game. Quarterbacks are judged on wins. So, the challenge for JJ is like, hey, man, we're talking about the best quarterback in the country. Sure, we can have the conversation. Maybe a Heisman if you keep winning and your numbers look great. But hey, do you chase the Heisman to try to break a tackle on third down when you're up 35-7, or do you throw it away and say, hey, man, I want to live to fight another day? Like, that's kind of the challenge here.
Yeah, agreed. Now, I have a question for you, and I'm not going to ask you to, like, throw any of your quarterbacks under the bus or anything like that. I'm sure you loved them all. But was there anybody that you played with that, just from a physical talent standpoint, had all the things that JJ does?
What would you say? Like, what would you say JJ has? Like, when you see JJ, what is a couple words that come to mind?
I would say, like, how I compare JJ is like in baseball, you call him like a 5-tool guy, right? Like he can run, he can throw, he can field, he can hit, all those things. I feel like JJ's got all those things from a physical standpoint. And if we're sitting here last year, I'd say, all right, accuracy is an issue. Maybe some decision making is an issue. He seems to have solved most of those things, I think.
Yeah.
So, I would say, I guess I'll put it, there's a lot of things that we can talk about, but I'll stick to these two things when I ask you.
Okay.
Arm and legs. And just like arm strength, and at the same time, he's outrunning defensive backs to get to the end zone on the corner against Minnesota.
I think Devin Gardner definitely was that guy, man. Like, in terms of playmaking ability, he was that guy. I would like to see DG in an offense. Our offense, we were not great, at that point in time. Another guy, because I don't. Jake Rudock was a different quarterback. Like, he was actually very capable. He was a capable runner and a very sneaky runner, and he did it. Dude, how many Jake would run, and then he would get out of bounds and he'd slide. Jake took so many shots to the chin because he was such a sneaky runner, and they'd go hit him, and we'd get 15 yards. He was tough as nails, man. I want to give Jake Rudock a lot of credit. Wilton was not a big runner, also a strategic runner. Wilton was good, big arm, could make all the throws you wanted. Here's a guy, though. Shane Morris was athletic as hell, man. Shane. And we built packages like the Michigan State game. Shane could run, dude. Shane Morris would go in the weight room and bench 315 pounds like as a quarterback. It was nuts. He was super athletic, and he had a cannon of an arm too. So, that dude had a special type of talent. I think you saw that as he transferred out of Michigan late in the career. But, the thing for JJ is that you've seen the progression every single year at this point. Like, he has consistently progressed, and that's what makes him so special.
Love it. All right, let's talk. It's obviously a big week. It's Michigan State week. First question I have, obviously MSU is in not great shape right now, right? We know that. We're not going to touch on that. I'm sick of talking about it. I'm sick of hearing about it. I honestly, the one thing I'll say about it going into this week, I feel really bad for the kids there. I feel really bad for the players. They didn't do shit wrong. They were put in a terrible situation, and now they're bearing the brunt of it throughout this year. So I'll say that. But with all that being said, does it feel like a normal rivalry week? I think you like commented, you might have quote tweeted somebody that said it was like a downplayed Michigan State rivalry week, and you said something different.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, there's like, let's separate us and let's separate the guys. Like us, like, sure, like there's no like trash talk on social media. There's no like, hey, what if this happens? Like, I think a lot of people in the media are just like, hey, this is assumed Michigan wins easy, all good. So like that, let's separate that from the fact of the matter, and let's talk about the truth of this matter. Yep. Michigan State, sure. Michigan, in my opinion, dude, is the number one team in the country. They're that good. I'm not saying that about Michigan State, man. I'm not saying anything about that, right? But I will say this, like, hey, Michigan State, like I like Rutgers as a football team. I think they're a good football team. You should have won that game, Michigan State. You lost it. Maryland, I think Maryland's a good team. Man, I look at that tape. I think you lost that one too. So Michigan, it's not like they're just really, really bad and just like have no chance. They're losing games, which means it's in their control. And with that being said, though I do think Michigan has them completely outmatched, this is a game where, like, here's something that's true, man. Michigan State, for every reason you just said, man, you can't tell me these dudes their whole season wouldn't be made to win this game, man. This whole they could lose every game the rest of the season if they beat Michigan this week. All good. Good. So they're going to pull out all the stops. That's the truth.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Sometimes me as a nervous Michigan fan, I'm like always that guy that's never confident. I was sitting there in 2021, sitting in Michigan Stadium with Jack, and there's like 10 seconds left. We're up by like 3 touchdowns. I'm like, don't say anything. Just something might happen. You never
trust me. I know.
Zero. I'm that guy, and I'm sitting here. I'm like, honestly, the first half last week, Caton Hauser's balling out against Rutgers, who I agree with you is a really solid football team. I'm like, no, we cannot have them have any momentum going into this game. Like, this is, they're going to take, they've got D'Antonio on the sidelines. They're going to pull out every trick play in the book. I do think that it's a lose-lose situation for Michigan. You are expected to win by 100 points, right? And if you don't at all, then Michigan State fans are going to be like, yeah, well, obviously you beat us. We lost our head coach. The whole program is in shambles. And so I think it's a lose-lose situation. And sometimes that's tough for the Michigan team in this situation to go and play in that environment.
I will say you're exactly spot on. So the good thing is, and the great thing is that you get a chance to see Michigan's maturity. And like, hey, whenever they're back in this offseason, like all of a sudden, I mean, big time, college game day analysts are picking Michigan to win the national title. Like, man, what the hell? 2 years ago, you said there was a 0.2% chance to win the Big Ten title. That's how quick it changes, right? That's a matter of maturity. I mean, look, Texas A&M, how often are they ranked in the top 10 in what happens, right? That's leadership. That's maturity. Michigan has handled that with complete grace. And in fact, somehow they've tried to exceed expectations. And there's something to be said about that. This game is just another example of that, man. They are picked heavy as favorites. The spread's wide. It's a rivalry game. No one's given Michigan State any credit. And I listen to these guys talk. I listen to Coach Harbaugh talk and give him credit. And Michael Barrett and Mikey Sainristil, awesome quotes this week in their pressers. Team's ready. Team's ready. Like no one's sitting here. You can see like this is sure you won't look over Michigan State, but like these guys, it just feels like they are on a mission towards a massive, massive goal. And like this is just the next step in line, man. So that's exciting if you're a Michigan fan.
Yeah, I'm still curious, like from a player perspective, more so, like how do you really like focus in, even though it is, you know, a rivalry game, when everybody's saying, you know, you're gonna blow them away, like you're the favorite to win and all that stuff. Like, what is the approach from a player perspective to show up to that game and be like ready and focused to play?
I mean, I think it's in a sense, I think it might be easier in this game because like this is a game as an alum, I'm watching this game. I want to see who shows up. I want to see who plays big. Like we're all, you know, there's a certain percentage of Michigan fans, like everyone, if you love Michigan, you watch every game, but you watch this one a little closer. Like, hey, who makes a big play in this game, man? You know, you can become a legend in this game. This one's watched under a microscope. So I think the players know that, and like respect is earned. You know, hey, I don't want to like be disrespectful towards Indiana, but like, man, if Michigan dominates Indiana, like no one really bats an eye. Like no one talks about Indiana, you know, right. Michigan dominates Minnesota. No one really talks about Minnesota. Right. But if Michigan dominates Michigan State, we're talking, like people are talking about that game. So I think players know that like this game's going to be talked about anyways, because it's that rivalry and because of the history of these two teams. It's kind of in a category of its own, you know, above the rest of the game. So as a player, you know that. You have to know that. Got to go handle business.
Yeah, I was talking to John Jansen and Dave Abloff yesterday, and it's like it's just funny. Even though it's not this, you know, top 10 game that it was 2 years ago, in Schembechler Hall this week, 100 more cameras show up for press conference availability, you know, and so it's the local news. It is, and that's what's cool. And you know, it goes back to, I know you're from Columbus, so you're not like a Michigan native. I'm from Grand Rapids. I felt like I grew up in the middle of this rivalry. I have a ton of Sparty friends. In this game, like I joke with some of my Michigan buddies, like this game sometimes for me means more than Ohio State because I grew up in the middle of it. Same thing for you, Jake, where the Ohio State one means you were in the middle of that rivalry growing up in Columbus, Ohio. And like this game truly does mean bragging rights for the full year. This is where you can walk into Meyer with a Michigan shirt on if you win this game. Feel freaking damn good about wearing that shirt proudly. You know what I mean?
Dude, listen, that like what's at risk? Like, hey man, I go to the casino and I put it on red or I put it on black. Like, what's at risk here, man? Like, man, if you lose this game, you gotta hear it for a year. It's just and there's nothing you can say. This isn't about logic. Like, I can't like logically say, well, Michigan's dominated the series or Michigan's still like, you can't say that. Doesn't matter. You sound like a goof. You either win or you lose. It's black and white in that sense. And if you win, you get the honor of having the bragging rights. If you lose, might as well just sit down and take it, man, and figure out a way to win next year. Like, that's the truth about this rivalry. The funny thing is that, you know, I am an Ohio guy. I would say there's still hatred. Like, listen, don't get me wrong. I was there in 2013, Ohio State, Michigan. There was a fight on the field. Dudes got kicked out. You got to be ready to fight. But there's a overwhelming aura of respect. Hatred is the word first, second, third, fourth, fifth for Michigan State, man. And that's and I mean that honestly as a good thing. Like people might say, well, that's not good. Like, what do you mean you hate them? That's dangerous, right? Like, no, dude, that's a good thing. Football is a beautiful sport. You hate them and they hate you. Let's figure out who hates who more. Let's figure out who deserves to win. That's the beautiful thing about this rivalry, man. It's a year-over-year thing. You can't do it forever, man. You got to prove it each year. Who cares about your record or where you're at? Go prove it on Saturday.
I love that so much. That
was incredible. I'm ready to run through a brick wall. I'm ready.
I got goosebumps right now. I'm fucking ready for Saturday.
Me too.
Was there ever, I've heard stories of like shit that goes on at the bottom of the pile and stuff like that. Do you have a memory from this rivalry where you're like, all right, this, like you just said, this game's a lot different than Michigan, than going out to play Indiana or going out to play Maryland or something. This one, it means a little bit more. There's a little more going on, post play or pre-game or all that stuff.
Dude, yeah, I just want to like preface this by saying like I just don't give a shit like about it. Like if it is what it is, then it is what it is, man. But like I never had a conversation like this outside of Michigan State. Like we knew, hey man, when a running back gets tackled, follow the back to the pile and get the jerseys off them and pick them up, because you don't know. I'm not going to accuse anybody or name names.
Right.
You don't know what goes on the pile, all right?
Yeah.
That conversation never happened any other week. So again, I'm not like, it is what it is. And like, I like playing in those games, man. I want to like, listen, man, I want to prove to my brothers I care about them. And I want them to prove to me I care about them. And I want to know, man, in 2016, we had a hand-foot-mouth outbreak going into that game, my senior year. What are the chances? I mean, dude, I played, 48 games, 50 games in my career? One game, there's a hand-foot-mouth outbreak, and it's Michigan State. Like, of course that happens, right? Things happen in this game. So, that's the thing. And look, man, they might be saying the same thing about us. There's not a single dude I played with that I would ever classify as dirty or anything like that. Never close to it. But like, this is a game, where like there's emotion. Gotta factor that into it. It can be exhausting in a sense, man. Like in a sense, the next game is something to watch out for, because it's emotionally exhausting for all those reasons.
I like it. I mean, it absolutely is that. Even as a fan, it feels exhausting sometimes when you got to argue.
Yeah.
It's stupid. I'm just fucking moving my thumbs on Twitter, but it's exhausting sometimes, and but it does mean more. It absolutely does mean more. And, the two things that come to my mind, one was a quote from Mikey Sainristil today, I believe, about remembering a couple things. Do you remember what happened last year with the whole tunnel thing, which, probably blown way out of proportion? I don't know. There's a lot to that, but do you remember it? Do you have it in the back of your mind as a player? And then also 2021, that game, obviously Michigan had the last laugh, by the end of the year, but that was a heartbreaker in that moment. And you felt like you were the better team. And that was the last time that they were in this stadium. So, as you're going into this game, you're trying to remember, all right, I've got these assignments. I've got, number 81 is the guy that I'm focused on today. You have so many things going through your brain. But do you keep those couple things in the back of your mind while you're going through pregame and during this game too?
Yeah, man, both are true, man. I think you definitely have to. Anyone that tells you that they forget about that is lying, man. Of course you remember that. But I do think for Michigan, there's two ways to approach this. Like, are you sitting here and you say, hey, we got something to prove this week? Like, hey, we got to go right the wrongs of last year. That's one philosophy. Or the other philosophy is to say, like, hey, man, you know what? Last year is last year. And in fact, our goals this year don't have anything to do with winning or proving ourselves right on any given Saturday. Like, our goals this year have a lot to do with January. So I think what Michigan has to do, like, man, this is not the time to get in a fight. This is not the time to prove yourself wrong. This is not the time to do anything, silly. I think what you do is you go out there and you handle business that you're capable of. You play your game and you get in there and you get out and you stay healthy and you move on to the next one. I think that's just as strong of a statement as it is to go out there and, whatever some, like, maybe some of the more extremist fans might hope for. I just don't think that's what Michigan wants to do. It seems like Michigan State is not trying to play that game this year either. I think they just want to go toe to toe, a good classic rivalry game, and let's see the chips where let's watch the chips where they fall come Saturday night.
Yeah. I agree. I do think that, I think one word that you touched on earlier for Michigan, we're going to know how mature they are come Saturday. And I think, Michigan State, we've talked about it. They don't have a whole lot to lose on Saturday, right? So I don't know that maturity will be their strong suit. It could be. I'd be really impressed if it was their strong suit, and that would be awesome to see. But I think that Michigan has a chance to play, we're the bigger man of this situation and say, all right, we're not going to get into the shit that you guys are trying to bring our way.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with my light up. My ring light is struggling over here. But we'll keep it rolling.
Hey, no, it's all good, man. Hey, listen, I do think so. I don't think that if Michigan State guy is on the ground that a Michigan player has to reach his hand and pick him back up, right? Like, I don't think that necessarily has to be the case this year, but like this week. But I also don't think that, it has to be egregious to the other side. I think what you can show as Michigan is you can just show what you can do is focus collectively on one another. Let's just, if Michigan can handle their business, which I think they expect to do and they plan to do, I know Michigan State feels the same, but I think if you're Michigan, what you would want to do is just show complete alignment and care for one another within your own program and not, if you're Michigan, the best thing you could do is just say like, hey, it's Michigan State this week. Oh, well, it was Indiana last week and it was Michigan State the previous week. It's just like alignment, almost like, hey, man, it's always about us. And teams say that about every week. But I think that's what Michigan should do this week.
What do you think Michigan needs to do in this game to convince other people around the country that they should be number one instead of Georgia?
To be honest, I don't think there's anything if you don't think they're number one at this point, like, I don't know if there's anything you could do. Seems like the only thing you could do is give them further ammo to argue against it. But look, Michigan at this point, rankings don't really matter at this point. Rankings don't really matter. As a Michigan team, I think there's just a few areas. It's like, man, let's get Donovan Edwards going, man. Let's get him a little bit healthier. Like, let's get JJ to, slide, throw the ball away. Like, let's improve upon that. Hey, let's punt return, small piece, big piece. Like, let's find a spark in that part of our game. Like these are little areas that you could say Michigan has the luxury to be talking about these areas. I think for them, it's let's figure those out, because at the end of the day, we know if we do those things, we'll win a lot of games. And if we win a lot of games, we'll be ranked where we want to be at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting when you talk about that, Kalen, because like normally, it's the classic saying like, oh, this week you throw the record books out, right? And like you do all that. So it'll be interesting to see how the national landscape reacts to this game, because it feels like right now, if Michigan and Georgia, it's a race. Who can beat the team against them by more? And who has the chance to be number one? That's how it is. And Michigan continues to beat the shit out of teams, and still people are like, they haven't played anyone. Okay, well, they play dog shit teams, but they beat the shit out of them. So what do you want them to do?
And here's Georgia, like, barely escaping Vanderbilt. So it's like,
and Auburn.
And Auburn. You're like,
right?
What?
The thing is like, man, regardless of the opponent, like if you truly watched film, you would understand that some things translate, like, hey, a good defense is gap sound and their assignment sound. And like that it doesn't matter who you play, right? And like Michigan, you could say what you want about the offenses they faced. Gap sound and assignment sound. They're not out of position. Why would that change versus anyone,
Jake, it's because you have AP writers who don't watch the games doing it.
I know.
They're probably your friends. They're probably, you got to be political here.
Hey,
I don't as much.
Hey, no. Dude, when I was in the NFL and even at college, Rod Moore, we knew this about Rod Moore. Like, he watched more film than anyone. Well, how do we know that? Because they track the amount of film you watch. We should maybe if you want to vote, I need to know how much film you watch of each team. If you don't watch enough, you don't get a vote. We'll give it to the next person. That's just my solution. I'm solution based.
I like that a lot. I think there's one guy, Chris Murphy, out there who had Michigan ranked like 8th. And there are so many people. Yeah, there's so many people now who they do this. They have Michigan ranked, 4th, 5th, 8th, whatever it is, because they haven't played anybody. They still have Georgia first, though. And I'm sitting here like, you can't have both. You can, if you want to have the argument that Michigan hasn't played anybody, okay, but you can't have both.
Exactly.
I don't know, man. We're sitting here. It'll all play itself out at the end of the year. The same shit happened last year. It is fun to talk about, but what I loved about what happened last year, and I'm hoping obviously the same thing happens again, is everyone talks shit about Michigan's schedule all year long. And what do? Go win 12 games in a row, and then nobody can say a damn word.
Exactly. Spot on.
I love
Spot on, man.
I love it. All right. Hey, man. So give us a quick little preview of your game, Nebraska and Northwestern, correct? I think everyone in the Big Ten is really tuning into that one this week. Sorry to say.
Tune in. Hey,
tune in for Jake
Ohio State. Hey, listen, man, you guys are football junkies. Like, don't lie to me, man. You got Ohio State, Penn State at noon. That's over. You got to wait till 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. What time is it?
7:30.
7:30.
But it's 6:30, so it's 7:30 Eastern, man. Hey, you got a nice little gap in between those games. I got Nebraska, Northwestern. What if I told you those teams are both 3-3? That's a shock. Both coming off a bye. As you said, the West is wide open, man. That's a sneaky good game. I can't figure it out, man. I'm looking at the tape. I have no idea which way this game will go. So, hey, we're
gonna have the TV on at the tailgate in East Lansing, and I'm gonna be like, no, we've got to watch Nebraska Northwestern.
I'm kind of sold.
Everyone's like, what the fuck is going on?
Hey, they're gonna thank you. Like, man, what a game, man! This is crazy. Look at this.
We're gonna have some live prop bets going in this game. It's gonna be great.
Hey, man, bet them if you have to. Yeah, put the props in there. Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, no, my friends calling the game. I swear, we gotta watch it.
That's right.
We'll get you some viewers in East Lansing this week. So there you go.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait to tune in.
All right, appreciate you, man. Tell the people where they can follow you, what you've got going on. I know you've got like 10 shows going on right now.
I was gonna say I should have the Twitter handles like you guys got, but just Jake Butt, man. You can follow me on Big Ten Network, Stadium Radio, all that good stuff. Connect with me on social media, man. I connect with the people. So ask me questions, give me feedback, talk some mess to me, and I'll respond most likely. So you can hit me.
You've got the lab as well, right? So go listen there.
So you guys this is a Michigan podcast. Let us know who you want to see as players. Tag us, tag the players. We'll get you going. It's really cool. It's a cool time that we're in, man, because you get to. I mean, what access did you have when it comes to talking to the players, man? We have direct access to the players. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. You're doing a couple other things too. I'm trying to plug it all. Yeah, Stadium going, right?
Yeah, it's a show where it's me and an Ohio State Buckeye, Joshua Perry, who's a phenomenal analyst, man, and we talk all things Big Ten, daily show, and we bring the fans on. Like, you could come on live TV. If you prove yourself as a fan, we'll bring you on live TV. I mean, what are we? This is a big show. It's on YouTube, awesome. All streaming platforms, YouTube TV. So you can come on. It's Big Ten Network. Can't bring you on Big Ten Network though, but maybe one day. And then I do some radio with Sirius XM. So it's fun, man. It's a busy season. It's good stuff.
There you go. All right, check him out. And then for us, we'll be in East Lansing this weekend. I will be at least. We'll have North Peak Brewing there as well. They've got the Hale IPA. They also have the Sparta IPA. So we're battling for it this weekend. We've actually got rivalsforacause.com going on. You can donate to benefit the Cancer Research Center at Michigan. And so go check that out, rivalsforacause.com, and grab your Hale. Go for it.
Will we also have Blue by 90 there?
We will have Blue by 90 be there as well. So I will be drinking it there. And yeah, we'll have the whole thing rocking. So excited
Your
to take
donation goal.
Good. I think it was $20,000.
$20,000.
Yeah.
Where's the show airing?
The show, Rivals for a Cause?
No, this show that we're watching right now.
This show is on YouTube, it's on Spotify, Apple Music, all that.
If we can get a YouTube comment to predict the correct score, I'll donate $500 to the cause.
Wow.
Whoa.
All right. There we go.
Got it.
Man of the people.
There we go.
All right.
Man of the people for sure.
All
right. There you go. All right. For us, you can follow us at Blue by 90 on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Blue by 90 Podcast on YouTube, and blueby90.com. We appreciate you. Go Blue.
Go Blue.
Bring Paul home.